Hi everyone, welcome to our fourth Industry Insights event, which is part of Unmute Photo from Birmingham City University's Photography Graduates Showcase. Today I'm with photographer Sam Ivin, who will be presenting a talk for us on his practice and some general advice for graduate photography students. So I'm just going to read a short bio for you, Sam. Sam Ivin is a UK-based documentary photographer who focuses upon social issues and the individuals connected to them. His photographic projects attempt to demonstrate the implications in which these social issues have on the subjects he photographs. Sam hopes to provide a more personal means to understanding his sitters' lived experiences by documenting their stories and perspectives. In 2014, he graduated from the University of Wales, Newport, and since graduation has received a number of significant awards such as Magnum Photo's Graduate Photographers Award, the GMC First Prize, Royal Birmingham Society of Artists, and British Journal of Photography Breakthrough Award in 2016. So Sam, I'm just going to hand it over to you now. We've got about 30 minutes. Just feel free to, share a screen share if you've got a presentation or anything.
Yeah, sure. No, thanks for having me, Nathan. Yeah, let's crack on then, shall we? So I thought I'd share today just a couple of projects and just sort of how they came to be and sort of the process behind them. So yeah, today I'm just going to talk about capturing human migration and the UK asylum system and my experience of trying to capture these things. So the first piece of work I'd like to talk about is Lingering Ghosts, which is probably the main body of work that I'm known for, which looks at how long periods of waiting affect asylum seekers in the UK. So this project began back in 2013 when I was in my second year of uni, and during this time Theresa May was the Home Secretary. And during this time, the UK Border Agency was being shut down. So there was lots of headlines at this time about asylum seekers and refugees. And I didn't really know what an asylum seeker was. And I was curious. I wanted to know, who are these people? Why are they here? How they got to Britain? Why Britain? So we had a module called a conceptual book project. And my idea was to sort of explore this topic of asylum seekers and refugees, find out a bit more and see where it takes me. So I remember I was quite nervous at making phone calls then, but I made a nervous little phone call and to a couple of local refugee charities, and the Trinity Centre, or Trinity Church as it was known, said, yeah, feel free to come along. So they offered refugee drop-in services. So they would point people in the right direction of other services. They would help teach people English, basically provide a service for local refugees and asylum seekers. So I spent some time there volunteering, drying dishes, hanging out, attempting to teach people English very badly, and making like a really rubbish little video interview for the centre. So in whatever way I could, I spent a couple of days a week there, helped out, and just tried to learn more. And the more time I spent there, the more shocked I was at how long people can wait for a decision from the Home Office, either their initial decision or a decision that they've appealed, and just how long people can wait in limbo. So, there was people 5 years, 8 years who've been waiting for a decision on their case. And during that time, you can't work, you can't travel, you're sort of stuck in limbo, basically. You can't progress your life. And you're given about £35 a week to live off. So it's really difficult for people during this time. There's a loss of identity and a loss of purpose. And this inefficient system got me really angry. And got me frustrated at the waste of human life that was happening. So I thought I would do little video interviews and sort of put together a little documentary thing. This was my crazy setup. And yeah, it didn't work very well. So people were nervous about having their faces shown. So I came up with this strategy where I would show the loss of identity and the frustration through scratching out their face using Photoshop. So using brushes and Photoshop, little stamps, digital stamps, I erased people's faces. And after doing that little shoddy interview video for the centre, I got comfortable with a couple of groups there, and I think about 7 people let me photograph them, and they were much more comfortable being anonymous as well, rather than giving their identity away. And so, yeah, I made a small little zine. This was the mock-up of it, which was terrible, but I wanted to share you guys, where I started from. And then, yeah, this was the original little zine I made for my Year 2 project, with coat of arms from the country where they're from and a little bit of text at the bottom. So after that, in my 3rd year, I actually did a project on community nurses, exploring a rural community nurse versus a more urban one. And yeah, it was very nice. It was very sort of traditional country doctor, Eugene Smith type photojournalism. And I was at this sort of point in 3rd year where I was like, do I go down this more sort of creative route of lingering ghosts, or do I go down this route of community nurses? And I was really torn between the two. But I felt after uni that I hadn't done lingering ghosts justice. I hadn't, it was still nagging in my mind that all these people's lives were just sort of on hold. So I decided to go back around the UK. I got in touch with a few small charities and wanted to do a better job of it. And I thought, maybe I'll self-publish a book or something. I'll just get some more work out there. So this is my little red Suzuki at the time. And I went round the UK to Stoke, went back to Cardiff, went to Leeds, a couple of places in London and Canterbury. And in return for, I might give people some family portraits, for example, or I might do a little photography workshop, take pictures of their office. I wasn't an experienced photographer at this point. I just graduated. And then in return for those little experiences for the charity, they would give me access to, really vulnerable people, their patients, their clients, the people they're responsible for or looking after. So it was sort of, I would give something and then the charity would give me access. That was sort of how it worked. And it was, I would recommend going to smaller charities if you're interested in this kind of work. Bigger charities, there's more bureaucracy, they're more likely to say no, whereas a smaller organization, you can get to know people. And yeah, it just seemed to work for me. So whilst doing this, I had submitted the work to a couple of competitions because a couple of people had said, that yeah, this is a really interesting concept. So I just thought, why not? And since 2nd year, I think we'd had some advice just to submit pictures to competitions. And I was really lucky to be in a 30 under 30 Magnum competition where a publisher, Fabrica, put me up. And I had a choice then, a couple of options, and I went with Fabrica, and Fabrica offered the opportunity to publish a book and produce a series of sort of large original artworks as well, which would be hand scratched. So they gave me, a tiny bit more money, and I continued around the UK, and I now had a clear purpose, which was to publish this book with Fabrica. So this is me in Italy. So instead of the photoshopped images, we went with hand scratching them. So I knelt on a floor for a month or so in Italy and scratched things out. Yeah, before masks were cool, by the way. Yeah, and yeah, this is some of the final series. So this chap is from Iran. He'd been waiting 5 years for for a decision to be made. He was just fed up, basically. He said, look, if you're not going to decide, just send me somewhere else. I'll go live in Canada or something. This guy had actually been taken sort of under his wing by someone else, and he was just living in hope, basically. This portrait I like to call the Green Lady. So this is probably what's most associated with my work. Yeah, and she'd had a really difficult situation. She was actually living in the UK and was told to seek asylum after her husband abused her, and his family were threatening to take the children from her. But she was really grateful to be in Cardiff, learning new things. This chap is from Democratic Republic of Congo. He'd been waiting 15 years for a decision, and especially when you're a victim of torture like he is, it's a really long time, and it plays havoc with your mental health. And this lady's from Zimbabwe, a slightly more complicated situation. So she hasn't had asylum for 21 years, but her situation was a lot more difficult. She'd been made homeless due to her sexuality and other things. Yeah, so it's just to give you an idea of the project. And the last but not least, a woman from Nigeria who'd been waiting 10 years, been in a really abusive, horrific relationship, and just was so grateful for having the opportunity to, she's getting a bus pass, she's learning English, like her papers are going through, she's really positive after all she'd been through. And I think that's something that is important to convey, is the determination and often the, just the, I don't want to say entrepreneurship, but like, determination of people. So yeah, this is the final book. So it's quite large. And there's a little British passport next to it. So if we made it now, it'd have to be blue, wouldn't it? I am debating going back to the project. I feel it'd be really interesting to find out where these people are. I haven't really kept in touch with any of them. So that's definitely something that's on my mind at the moment. But yeah, as you can see here, similar format to the zine, small coat of arms with the person's portrait. There's about 27 different portraits in the book with a little excerpts from them, little quotes from them about their experiences. Yeah, and I was really fortunate the project was received really well in the first couple of years of it being published. So British Journal of Photography featured it back in 2016. It was featured at festivals around Europe. And I also, as well, I'm quite keen to get work into sort of more everyday places as well, so not just galleries. So if I have an opportunity for, a slightly less prestigious place, or, not a photography gallery, then I'm quite excited by that, enjoy sort of showing work in new places. So this is at a college in Salisbury, a theology college. And I did make another series of 6 for this photo festival in Brussels. And this is the work at St Martin in the Fields in London. And yeah, so that sort of sums up my lingering ghost journey, really. Yeah, and that's how my my work started to go down the route of migration and refugees, and that's how my interest started, basically. Nathan, how are we doing for time? Just checking.
It's 52 now, so about 10:15 really.
Nice.
Yeah.
On time. That's
Yeah.
good. So on from settling, in between that, I photographed segways, I did some event photography, sort of that little period in between projects where you're not sure what's next, you're just trying to make a living. And yeah, I was living with parents. I've sort of moved out like earlier this year, but I just want to say to graduates as well, there's no rush and there's no shame in, living with parents. You're entrepreneurs at the end of the day if you're going to do this, even if you're, not necessarily a photographer. That it's better to make the most of and and save up as much as you can and put all your effort then into your work. So yeah, settling was the next thing I want to talk about. Settling is about exploring human migration to Stoke-on-Trent. So I'm just going to show you a little 2-minute video clip here, which I'm sure we can link to you guys as well. But then of course you have to play it. And this is from my latest show with settling at Keele Uni. Excuse me. Settling started as a commission with local arts organisation Appetite and Grain Projects, who produce photography projects around the Midlands. Back in 2017, over 3 months, there was a call out to create a display. I was lucky enough to be chosen for that residency. I worked with a few different community organisations and met up with individuals to collect different stories about people who've migrated from around the world to Stoke-on-Trent. The stories we found were so interesting and remarkable that I thought I've got to expand this. We once went into the local archive and asked to see more material on people who've migrated to the area or migration, and for some reason all we came back with was this tiny folder, and we felt that the migrant population of Stoke-on-Trent hadn't really been recorded or hadn't really been sort of documented properly. It's about 1 in 5 people who live in Stoke are born from outside the UK, so we felt that it was really important to record that. I didn't expect such a rich, remarkable stories, the range, the diversity of the people we met, and how poignant so many of them were. Aida, she came for love. Val came after World War II for sort of safety and to build a better life. Other people just came because of the opportunity. There wasn't really one common thread. What did strike me though was actually how we store photographs. As a photographer, when you find a really good photograph, that's always really exciting. And it's amazing how many photographs that are fantastic, to my eye anyway, that are just in shoeboxes or on the last page of a photo album, buried deep in a wardrobe or something. I just hope that made people curious, with the pictures, and that they take time to read a few of the stories. I think I chose the word settling for the title of this body of work because it's about people making a home, and it's about creating a life, getting comfortable somewhere, but also it's about creating a livelihood. And that's what settling means to me, is making a home. So yeah, forgive me showing an interview of myself on my slides, but I was pleased with that because it was succinct, and the Anderson J. West, who put that together, did a really good job of explaining the project. So yeah, I'll find a way obviously to share that with you, Nathan. But yeah, basically settling, it started as an initial residency with Appetite, who are a Stoke-on-Trent based arts organisation, and Grain Photography Hub, who do photography projects around the Midlands, as I just said. So yeah, I'll just take you through some of the images from the initial workshops we did. And basically the original idea was sort of to show just people's photographs really from around the world. And they were quite keen to show that Stoke-on-Trent actually has a lot of people from around the world living there. So yeah, these two people, for example, were from Keele University. This is a church that also offers a service for refugees. And so we did workshops with them. This is a collage board workshop I do that basically you get a little cake board and get people to choose images at random and then create sort of a narrative out of it. And you can also do sort of word activities with it as well, like poems and things that make it it seems like quite a strange activity, but because you're doing it instinctively, it's really interesting what people come up with, and then they share it with the group. So yeah, we'd start with the Polaroids, go on to these collage boards. This board, for example, a participant split it down the middle because they felt like some of their part was in Pakistan and then the other half was in Stoke. They felt really torn between the new places. And then we also did street photography as well. Yeah. And the last activity we did were collage portraits. So people would take the different images from their photo albums and then make up a portrait of them. And yeah, that was the initial workshops. And then we showed it at this big feast festival, which was an Argos building. And they told me I had a shop window to fill. And then I saw this and I was like, ah, that's a big space. But with the help of an amazing technician, David, and 400 nails later, we managed to get it looking like this for a weekend. So it was quite a lot of work for what it was, but it paid off. You can see Val there, Val Tominski, Polish Order 2 veteran. It was worth it though, because from this display, I decided to expand it with an Arts Council England bid. And, you know, I have to thank Nicola from Grain here for guiding me through this and helping me with this, because it was my first application. I think I may have done like a small one before, but this is my first serious application. And so we're really lucky, managed to get the funding and return to Stoke-on-Trent. And yeah, just expanded the work again, did more workshops, and then also met up with more people individually and just back and forth with them, getting pictures of them and interviewing them. And, you know, I met like probably about 50 people, but from this it went down to about 12 participants. And then from there I had to figure out tests. So I did, you know, small tests, just printed out lots of small things. I'm really interested in manipulating photographs and decorating them. That's something that I enjoy, and I think is quite an important part of my practice, is my portraiture, sort of my headshot type look, and you know, manipulating images. So as you can see, this sort of built on from Lingering Ghosts, because I'm now getting people with these individual tests to actually make marks of their own on the print as well. So whereas Lingering Ghosts, when I showed it to people, they were often like, oh, did you not get them to scratch it out? And I was like, well, no, I'm the artist. But there was this idea that maybe I needed to involve people a bit more so they could have a say in how they're portrayed. And also that meant that the workshops, whereas in Lingering Ghosts, they were quite separate things, the project and the workshops, whereas in Settling, they sort of morphed, the workshops became part of my practice, and they sort of morphed together to create like one body of work. So whereas before it was a way of giving back, it's now actually an important part of my process, doing these creative activities with people, getting to know people, and the communities that they're in. So yeah, you can see from here, I'd give people paints, and some people were like amazing with them, like the ones you see here. Others, you know, couldn't really be bothered and were like, look, you're the photographer, you make the marks. And either of those is fine, I don't really mind. Often for some reason, the men didn't really want to do anything, but like the women were totally up for it. Don't know why that is. But yeah, as you can see from those initial tests and yeah, and my own playing around, this is what we came up with. The frames are sort of partly inspired by Taran Simon, A Living Man Declared Dead, which is a really interesting project. And yeah, on the left side, you have the portrait of the person embellished with something that sort of reflects their personality or exaggerates their personality. So as whereas Lingering Ghost was taking stuff away, Settling was about celebrating that and exaggerating that. So this is the show that we did at the Potteries Museum in Stoke-on-Trent. The big Polaroid wall. Polaroids are great fun, and you can scan them and print them really big. Yeah, that's the final space. We had little boxes full of, so Val Tominski, the Polish World War II veteran, had an amazing photo album. So we featured a few of the photo albums there as well, which was really nice. We had like quite a lovely opening as well. So yeah, it was quite satisfying overall, the project. So yeah, on the left, their portrait, on the right is their family photo albums. So for example, this is Hyacinth. She loves gardening, so different flowers and leaves, stuff like that. And then on the right is a, you know, sort of from when she came to the UK in '53 all the way to now. So yeah, here's where she arrived in London. That's one of her sons. And she worked as a, yeah, with elderly. people in the nearby hospital. There she is with, oh, now I never get this right, nephew or grandson, I can't remember. But yeah, it's in the 90s. This is Aida, who recently got an MBE, so big congrats to Aida for that. She really deserves it. This is Gabby, who's, wherever you go in Stoke-on-Trent, people who are creative know who Gabby is. She gets involved in so much. Val Tominski, 93-year-old Polish war veteran. They made his home in Stoke. Apello, who has an amazing story about being detained by the Home Office and has pulled through and come out the other side. So yeah, big props to Apello. This is Osman, who's an asylum seeker. He's been waiting a very long time for a decision. Imrana. And yeah, a few images of the cabinets. And I like to get the audience involved when I can. So there's little postcards here, people saying I moved to Stoke-on-Trent and why I'm staying here. And all of them range from very serious to just people taking the piss, which is absolutely fine. Like a joke sometimes. Serious as us photographers are. And yeah, I also really enjoy sharing the work with all ages. So there was a couple of primary schools came down, I visited a couple of schools, and that's, yeah, I really enjoy doing that and feel like it's important. And I was really lucky as well that some of the portraits and a journalist sort of took some of the stories, and it was after the exhibition, so he couldn't really promote that, but he used it as a way to share their stories, which was great. And yeah, as I said, recently Keele University have also shown the work, which is how those video interviews came about. So as photographers, I'd really recommend graduates as well, like collaborating with other people is brilliant. You know, we often work on our own as photographers, but it's really important to find other creatives and people as well. Yeah, so in Keele Uni as well, I was able to sort of create a timeline of the project as well. And it's quite a complicated process. And sometimes it can be a bit confusing when you're showing participatory collaborative work. So having a bit of context in the timeline for people was really nice as well. So yeah, there you go. There's a few images of Keele. And also, if you're interested, really short, really fascinating videos from 4 of the participants. Yeah, really recommend you watch them. They've got no views at the moment. So, you know, go on, help Keele out and watch a few of those. That would be great. Just search Settling Exhibition or Keele Lectures and Talks. Yeah, and that's me done, Nathan. So I hope that was of some use to you all.
Perfect. That was incredible, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all that information. And I love how multifaceted that last project, well, both are, but that Settling project, how multifaceted it was. So from the workshops, how you produced those different workshops, from the actual portraits, which you then collaborated with the participants who did the artwork on top, to then incorporating the archival imagery as well. I just love how it's, you know, different aspects, different strings to the project as well, which just tied it all together really nicely.
Thanks, man. Cheers. That's great. I'm worried sometimes I overcomplicated it, but I'm quite pleased with it now.
Definitely, yeah. You should be very proud of it. Is this something that you're working on currently? Any projects you're working on right now?
Yeah, oh gosh. So they're not so much projects, but I think with lockdown, I've just done commissions recently, and I've also been moving. So yeah, I've just settled into my flat now, so I think there'll be something new. But the commissions I've done recently are for a gallery in Southampton, working with early years kids, so like 3-year-olds, and getting them to use cameras, which during lockdown was a bit of a, yeah, I wasn't able to actually facilitate the workshops, so I sort of had to send stuff out.
Yeah.
But that's on show in Southampton at the moment, and that will be on for the next month. So it's just basically 3-year-olds exploring the seaside. So that was quite a nice project, quite different.
Nice.
And then the other thing is I've been doing some light painting with dancers in Hertfordshire. So that's, yeah, that will be on show in Stevenage Museum in September.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's fun. That was a very fun one, being in a museum below a church in the dark, like waving lights around. Yeah, it's good.
Cool. Well, thank you so much again for joining me today for this talk. I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this for us for our Industry Insights event.
No, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me. And yeah, best of luck with it all as well.